Hello everyone, it's Jessica here with another layout for the Shimmerz Paints design team, and if you place an order you can use my name Jessica in the comments of your order and you'll get a free gift. So I am starting this layout by applying some clear gesso. This is the Finnabair gesso and I'm applying it to a sheet of textured white cardstock, and I'm going to just set this aside to dry for now. I have cut out a cut file by Pear Tree Cut Files that says a little boo thing, and I'm going to bring that in now along with this photo that I'm going to be using today of myself and my baby girl. This was actually a photo of us when we were trick-or-treating, so this was just perfect. I've actually pulled out the little boo thing collection as well. This is by Photo Play, I believe it was, and I am just pulling out a few of the papers from the collection kit. And I'm just going to use this cute little lacy border punch that I have here in my stash. And I'm going to cut a bunch of these out from these papers. And then I'm just cutting them into strips as you see here. So I'm going to create a bunch of these, and I'll speed this video up so you don't have to watch me do every single one of them here. And there's all my strips. I am just going to start gluing these together, but I wanted to pull off my cut file from my cutting mat here so I could see what size I need, because what I'm doing with this is I'm actually going to use these little lacy strips to back my cut file with. I just thought they looked really pretty and added some really cool texture, so I wanted to add that into the cut file. So I'm just gluing all of these strips together to create basically another piece of paper. So I just wanted something big enough to cover the cut file here behind it, and I'm just going to glue this down. So I was measuring this. I was pretty sure I could make this work because the cut file wasn't super wide, so I was actually able to just cut this in half after those strips were together and just glue on this piece to the top, and then it's the same repeating design again. So super easy and quick. And then I'm just going to use the negative pieces of my cut file letters here. I'm just going to place them on top and just cut out around them, leaving a small outline. And that's one of the ways how I like to back my cut files manually. It's pretty quick with this one because these are just really straight letters. I mean, I know they're curved, they're circles, but as far as cutting, they're pretty straight to cut and pretty easy to cut. So nothing too fancy or crazy. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the Deluxe Nouveau liquid adhesive to the back side of my cut file and then place that down onto that piece that I cut out. I'm just going to lay the middle piece of the letter, the negative piece, to my cut file here in the center so that I can adhere the middles of my letters. And then in a little while, after I get all of these backed, I'll go ahead and pull out my X-Acto knife and cutting mat to cut out the centers of those letters. So I'm just going to repeat this and do basically the same thing for the other letters. So there's my fully backed cut file, and then here's my X-Acto knife and my cutting mat by Olfa, and I'm just using these tools to cut out the middles of these letters real quick. And then I thought that was going to finish my cut file off. I actually end up doing something else to it a little bit later in this video, but I will explain that whenever I get to that point in time. Baby girl is here with me as per usual. You can hear her in the background, I'm sure. She is playing and just likes to follow me around at this point. She's 2 now, and I think that's her favorite thing to do is to follow me around the house and see what I'm doing. Yeah. And she's rambling a lot. I thought by this point she would be saying words and things, but she's not quite yet. She only says a few things. She mainly just rambles, which is perfectly fine. And I am going to pull out a bunch of these Shimmerz Paints products. So I am starting with a bunch of them. I have a whole slew of them here. So I'm using a Shimmerz in Moulin Rouge, Pink Caviar, and Pip Cherry-O, which is the darker one that I absolutely love. You'll see that one here right now, and I love this one. I think it's slowly becoming one of my favorites. And all of these pinks kind of look the same in the pots, but when you put them down on the paper, you can tell that there is some color variation there, and they are different. I'm basically just smushing them all down, and then I use my paintbrush there to spread them all out. So I'm just kind of blending them together a little bit. I did water down my paper before I applied them. It just helps with some movement, and the blendability of them. I'm also using an Inklingz in Bahama Mama and a Creameez in Grapefruit, which is also really pretty. And then I've also pulled out, or I will pull out here in a second, a Spritz color right here in Cotton Candy. So it just adds a little bit more shimmer and just a little extra tone of pink there. And then here I'm grabbing some white acrylic paint. I'm just watering it down so it's a little bit thinner and I'm able to splatter it onto my paper here. And as you can see, I just keep pulling over my cut file and just putting it on top there just to see where it's going to lay and how much mixed media I need to have on this page to just kind of peek through and around that design. So that's pretty much how I like it to look. I'm going to start drying it up here with my heat gun. I'm super impatient when it comes to waiting for things to dry. So I'm just going to add some heat here with my heat gun. As you can see, I'm kind of blending some of those out. I dabbled up some of the bigger pools of color with some paper towel, and then I use a little bit of water to kind of pull the color out and blend it out a little bit just to soften those edges. I didn't really want any harsh edges on this layout today. I just wanted them all blended and just to kind of fade out and soften on the edges. So that's what I did. And as you can see here, as I'm drying this, I'm adding more colors, more splatters, just adding little bits as it's drying to get it to the way that I want it to look. So I've got all those colors there. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up here and close up all these pots so they're not just laying open on my desk where little hands can come and grab them. So I thought I was done here. I just decided to add one more thing. I know it's crazy, all the things that I add, but I was going to add some stenciling and I decided I just wanted some lines in here. I know it's kind of weird, but I wanted just a little bit more texture in this. So all I'm doing here is I have dumped out a little bit of that color onto my desk there, and then I'm just using my spatula that I apply my gesso with to just add some lines into that design just to pull out those colors. And I just think it looks really cool, and I wanted to create a little base for some stamping that I'm going to do on this layout with some little word phrases. So it's pretty dry at this point. I'm going to go ahead and work on my photo. I've already matted it once with some smooth white cardstock, and then I've pulled out another darker pattern paper from that collection. I'm just going to overlay it on the boo part of the cut file, and then I'm going to put the last word over the bottom. And here's where I decide that the white wasn't showing it up enough for me as I would have liked it to, so I'm going to pull in some black. I've actually cut this file again using some black glitter cardstock, and I just cut out the couple words that I needed here, and then I just am adhering those right directly to the top. But it is a glitter cardstock, so I use the glitter cardstock setting on my Cricut software, and it cuts it out really, really nice because that paper is pretty thick, so I think it actually goes through and cuts it out twice. I don't usually watch it when it's cutting, but I'm pretty sure it cuts it twice. And then here's a little rub-on sheet from this collection that I'm using. I'm just going to add it to the top. I think it's super cute, has little flags on it, and I think that's going to look adorable up there. So I'm just going to add that along with this trick or treat little banner right over the cut file here. I'm trying not to cover up the cut file too much because I want those really pretty ruffly lace strips to really shine on the backing of that cut file, and I want that mixed media to show through, so I don't want to add a ton of things over top of my cut file. So I'm going to leave it about right there. I really, really like those little banner flags. I think they're super sweet. I'm pulling out in Elle's Studio tabs stamp set. This is the Halloween tabs I'm pulling out, and I'm going to add a bunch of those stamps in black, and I'm just going to scatter those all throughout the layout. So I have all that fun stamping done. I'm going to add one tab to the top of my photo using a little tab stamp and die from Elle's as well. So I'm just going to trim that out here and then run it through my Big Shot machine with that little die to trim that out. I could have cut it by hand. I know sometimes it seems like more work to use the die and pull out the machine, but my Big Shot machine is always sitting right on my desk beside me anyways. So I am super lazy when it comes to cutting things out. So I use dies whenever possible. And I'm just adding a little bit of stamping on there before I cut that out. And this looks really pink. It's pretty pink, but when I edit my photos and things, it makes it a lot whiter and lighter, but it's actually pink. So I don't know. My lighting isn't always great here. I live in Central PA, so I often scrap in the evenings and take my photos in the evenings, so I use studio lighting. And sometimes when I edit and things, it completely wipes out colors, so I have to be very careful with how I edit and the amount of contrast and exposure and all of that. So I am pretty happy with how this is looking. I love how that mixed media just shines through the cut file and just enhances this photo. I don't get to scrap with pink very often. I know I have a baby girl now, so I can't really use that excuse, but I should be scrapping pink a lot more, being that I have a girl now versus my first two, which are both boys. But I just don't. I don't scrap with pink a whole lot. So it's something that I want to do more, but I just need to get used to doing that. And I really, really love how this one is looking. I'm pulling out some Flair by Scrappin Happy Studio. This is from the October release, I believe it was. And I just love these cute little ghosts. And this little set just goes perfect with this collection and this layout. I'm going to link everything down below in the description that I've used today for you in case you want to grab anything from any of the shops. And if I didn't list something that you had a question about, or you have a question in general about how I did something, please just let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer. And lastly, on this layout, I'm going to add some bats. I actually do some of this off camera. I add these first two on camera with some 3D foam squares, and then the rest of the bats that I end up adding, I ended up running a die through my Big Shot machine that has 3 little sized bats on it by Echo Park, and I cut a whole bunch of those using the leftover glitter cardstock that I had from the cut file. So I like to recycle and reuse everything that I can. So I had that little scrap and I thought it would look really cute to make some bats with. So you'll see those come in here in a second. I'll speed this up for you so you don't have to watch me place each and every one on here. And then I'm just going to glue these down or pop them up with some 3D foam squares, but they turned out super cute. I really, really like it. I love how they just kind of enhanced the layout and kind of made like a nice visual triangle and just gave my layout a little bit more balance with all the cut file goodness and the mixed media, and then my photo kind of being off center. So lastly, of course, I can't finish a layout these days without adding sequins. So I've grabbed some sequins by Catherine Pooler for this one. And I'm just adding those down with some of the Nouveau glue and my sequin tool. So super easy and simple, but it does add a little bit of bling to your projects and just gives them a little pop of color too. So I am almost done with this. I think this is my last step, and here's the finished layout. So again, I'll link everything down below in case you want to grab anything from the shops. Use my name Jessica in your Shimmerz order to get a free gift. And thank you guys so much for watching, and thanks for being here. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.